Hi folks, Toad here with Visordown.com, and we are at either the world's windiest place, the world's hottest place, or the world's wettest place, which is Bruntingthorpe. Today it's been windy but dry, which has been good because I've been riding this thing and you really wouldn't want to ride it around here in the wet. I have ridden it in the wet and it's a little bit scary. So what have we got? This is the 2019 Kawasaki H2. So it's updated over the previous version of the H2. It's got slightly more power. It's got some tweaked engine modes, and Kawasaki engine braking has been refined a little bit. It's also got uprated Brembo style Lima calipers on the front. The brakes on the old H2 were always renowned for being a little bit lacking in bite and feel, so they've sorted that with some proper top spec calipers on the front. This is £26,499, which sounds like a real lot of money for a motorcycle, but when you consider that this thing has got kind of the power to weight ratio that would outdo a Bugatti Veyron, it kind of sort of makes sense. If you want the pinnacle of going really fast on two wheels, there isn't really anything that can touch this in terms of getting you up to basically nearly 200 miles an hour. Into the engine. It is obviously a liquid-cooled 4-cylinder engine, double overhead cam, 16 valve. The big news with the H2, everybody knows it, is the supercharger. This thing is putting out 230 bhp static, and with ram air induction going through the air intake on the front, that will rise up to 240 bhp. Torque is 141 newton meters at about 11,000 rpm. And all the numbers don't do any of that justice when you ride the thing, because it just takes off like nothing. The first time you ride this thing, you properly get to feel what 240 horsepower in a motorcycle is, and then you realise that you've probably only used about 75% of it. I don't think I've used 100% until we got here today on the 2-mile runway at Bruntingthorpe, and that's when the only place you can actually fully sort of extract everything out of a bike like this. It is just absolutely mind-blowing trying to explain that to somebody. Into the braking system. So we've got twin 330mm discs, and as I mentioned, they're Brembo style Lima calipers. They're backed up by a fully IMU'd out ABS system with cornering ABS that also works through traction control. I'll come into that in a minute. And the rear brake, we've got another Brembo caliper and a 230mm disc. It's a 2-piston. You've got Brembo radially mounted master cylinders and a hydraulic clutch lever as well, and they are super plush, pleasure to use as always. Loads of feel, loads of bite. Even today when we're trying to slow the thing down from like 190 miles an hour on kind of the sketchy concrete surface here, it's just absolutely, it's so much power, so much feel. It needs it because it's a big bike. It's 240 kgs there or thereabouts, so it's got to have an up-to-date and a really bang-on braking system, and that's exactly what it's got. Just going to go through the suspension. So unlike some of the other Kawasaki's, the top range Kawasaki's, this hasn't got a semi-active electronic suspension setup. So it has got 43mm KYB, fully adjustable, preload, rebound, compression, everything you need really. Up front, like the braking system, it needs to be good. It has to be up to the job of trying to control all of this power and all of this torque and all of this fucking huge motorcycle. And it does a very sterling job indeed. At the rear we've got a very sexy looking Öhlins TTX 36 gas shock absorber with a piggyback reservoir. I did play with the preload in it a little bit just to kind of like make it a little bit more to somebody who's as short and lightweight as me. And yeah, overall it's got to be a really good braking system, and that's kind of what Kawasaki have done with it. It is very good. So I've talked about the suspension and the braking system, and the one thing about this bike that really stands out for me is the fact that Kawasaki went with a trellis frame. I think it looks absolutely great. It just looks so right with this machine. It's kind of industrial, and the green frame, it just looks absolutely bang on. It does kind of always feel like it's trying to play catch up with the engine. It just feels like it's almost not enough frame to contain that engine and that amount of power within it. I mean, it feels like it's got enough power to like change the rotation of the earth. It's phenomenally powerful, and it's almost like I don't know that anybody would be able to really create a frame that would be able to contain this amount of power. That said, you can chuck the thing on its ear. I mean, we've been hammering around here today, and we've both been getting some fairly decent lean angles and sort of sliding knees and stuff like that. It's just sometimes when you chuck it on a corner, you get on the throttle, you just feel the whole thing sort of starting to shimmy about, and it's almost like it's just letting you know that you're kind of close to the edge and that you just need to take it a little bit easier. It's a motorcycle that you do have to treat with respect. You can't just jump on it, hammer the thing. You've got to be really, really careful with it, because it is a very, very powerful machine. So I just want to talk you through the equipment. As you'd expect from one of the most advanced motorcycles on the planet, it's got an absolutely top spec electronic suite to go with it. So you can see that we've got a Kawasaki engine braking control here, got a Kawasaki quick shifter. One of the party pieces of this bike, which we had a little play on earlier, which was a shit load of fun, is Kawasaki launch control. So if you hold the up arrow and hold in the mode button, you'll see the KLCM mode 3. So there are 3 levels of Kawasaki launch control. Level 3 is probably the tamest, where it will wheelie a little bit, but it will be controllable. Level 2, there will be a little bit more wheelie, and level 1, it will be a proper hooligan start, and it will be popping and banging off the rev limiter, and it's an absolute thrill to use. It's properly good fun. Once you've got the Kawasaki launch control engaged, you then start the bike up, select first gear, and as soon as you get into third gear, then it disables all of that and you can just continue on as normal. It's not advised for sort of normal everyday use, because you would really piss off your neighbours if you're pulling off the drive at home like that every morning at 6 AM, but it's a lot of fun on the track, and at a place like this it's just an absolute thrill to use it. So what do we like about the Kawasaki Ninja H2? I love the power and the torque and the delivery. It's like nothing else you'll ever ride. A normally aspirated engine just doesn't behave like one of these. It feels like it's got, like I said earlier, it feels like it's got enough power to change the rotation of the earth. It's just fucking so nice to get on and just really hammer it, and it's just a thrill, an absolute thrill to ride. I love the looks as well. I love the fact that it kind of scares old people and young children when you're riding it down the road, and it doesn't matter whether somebody's a biker, a non-biker, they all look at it and they think, what the hell is that? And nobody's seen anything like it unless you're a biker, and then you know what it is. The final thing that I like about it is that if you turn it into rain mode, which is the tamest throttle response and the tamest power output, it's just really tractable, and you can ride it and you can pootle through villages and pootle through town at 30 miles an hour. It doesn't grumble, it doesn't complain, it doesn't buck or weave or mess about. It's just a really, really tractable bike if you want it to be. If you take it out of rain mode, the throttle response gets a little bit more sort of like a hair trigger, and it becomes a little bit more of a handful. But drop it in rain mode and you can pootle around in town all day, go collect your shopping or grab a pint of milk, and it's just really, really good. There's only one thing that I don't like about the bike, and it goes against everything else that I've already said, so it's going to sound a bit confusing, but I kind of don't know if it's a little bit too much, because I've had this thing for 2 weeks, I've done hundreds of miles on it, yet the only place that I can actually extract 100% out of this bike is on a 2.5 mile runway on a disused airbase. I don't know anybody who owns a disused airbase apart from the people that own Bruntingthorpe. So it's like, when and where average rider's ever going to use it? I don't know that anybody ever will. It's just one of those things that it's nice to have it, I guess. What can I say? It's kind of a watershed moment in motorcycling, the H2. It's almost like up there with the sort of the Bugatti Veyron of the motorcycle world. And to be able just to ride it and have it and just get on it and jump on it and ride it whenever I want has just been absolutely awesome, really. I've loved every second of it. It's not without its faults. Comfort's not high on the agenda with a bike like this, but you know that when you get it, and if you want a comfier one, get the H2 SX, which is a more everyday H2, although they bill it as a sports tourer. I think it's more of an everyday H2. And yeah, it's a lot of bike, and it is an expensive bike, but I mean, if you want the fastest straight line, supercharged, 240 brake horsepower motorcycle, there is really only one place that you can go, and that's to Kawasaki. You can read a full review of this bike on Visordown.com. Thank you very much for watching.